Hello and welcome to the post-draft edition of the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas Frankel alongside Mike Lucas, and we begin with the New York Football Giants, who are all slated to pick DeVonta Smith at number 11 until the Philadelphia Eagles were like, not so fast. They sniped the Giants, move up to number 10, snag him, and the Giants are forced to trade back, draft Kadarius Toney. Pretty emphatic consolation prize, if you ask me. Mike, what was your assessment of how the draft unfolded for your beloved New York Football Giants?
You know what? It's impossible to, fully evaluate a draft right afterwards, but I actually really like what they did. Now, it sucked that Smith was, taken from the grasp of their hands by a division rival, and I'll never forgive Dallas for trading with Philadelphia one spot ahead of the Giants so they could take the guy they wanted. But to get an extra first-round pick next year from the Bears, who are going to be playing with either Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, or Justin Fields at quarterback, is a ginormous asset in my mind. I don't see any way Chicago is particularly very good next year unless Justin Fields comes in and lights up the league. But I think we've seen that quarterbacks built in his nature and mold of, still kind of raw. They take a little while to develop. I think he's going to be a pretty good quarterback. I don't think he'll be a great quarterback immediately. And if you're asking me, we got a extra first-round pick in next year's draft from this Bears team, which I don't think will be good. I think it could be a top 10 pick. Plus Kadarius Toney, who I think is absolutely electric with the ball in his hands. Now, is Toney DeVonta Smith? No, he's not. And I think I would have taken Smith over everything else. But all things considered, to get Toney and an extra first-round pick from the Bears and what should be a pretty talented draft, I kind of like it. And what they did in the second round, too, they got the pass rusher from Georgia, who they had a specialist, Dr. James Andrews, cleared his knee. I saw him being mocked to the Giants at 11 to get a guy at 50 who you possibly could have got at 11 is great value. Their third-round pick, the cornerback from UCF, was an Alabama commit out of high school, so he's clearly talented. And then those late-round picks is just a crapshoot. Who knows who will pan out and who won't, but I like Trader Dave picking up those extra picks next year, and I'll never forgive Dallas. I hate Philadelphia. I wanted DeVonta Smith, and if they had taken someone else at 11, I would have been very mad. But the fact that when Smith was taken away from them to get that extra first-round pick and move back, I like what they did. Is it an A+? No. Is it an A-? Yeah, I think it's an A-.
So would the better play, if you can go back in time, obviously you're satisfied with getting the extra pick next year and whatnot. And Toney, who knows how he'll be, but he obviously has a lot of explosive ability at the very least. Would you have been more satisfied if they would have moved from 11, possibly trading with either Denver or Carolina, who both those teams are pretty set on drafting cornerbacks?
No, you mean to take Smith at like 8 or 9?
To get Smith, basically, is what it comes down to. Because it came down to either the Giants or the Eagles for the Eagles, and the Eagles were like, we are not letting DeVonta Smith slip through our fingers under any circumstance.
And more credit to them. What did they give up to move up the 2 spots? What was the consolation of getting in front of the Giants?
The Eagles trade. I'm not 100% off the top of my head. Let me just see.
It depends on that. It does depend on what you give up to get that pick back. I think I saw Toney in person last year. That dude is as electric, as anyone I saw on the field with the ball in his hands. I saw DeVonta Smith 2 years ago, and he was the second most electric guy in that Bama receiving corps behind Jalen Waddle. So, I would have taken Waddle first. I would have taken Smith second if they were there for the Giants. Jamar Chase, I'm assuming, was off the board. But to get the extra first-round pick, no, I don't think I would trade up 2 spots to get Smith just because he's $170.
So the Eagles,
I do think there's durability issues. He hasn't been hurt, but I do worry that he'll be able to stay healthy consistently in the NFL. And I would have said that even if the Giants drafted him. It was the only knock I had on him. So to trade up and give up more assets to get a guy that I don't feel 100% comfortable in, I don't think I would have wanted to do that.
The Eagles gave up their first-round pick, obviously, at 12 and a second-round pick to move up 2 spots.
I mean, if the Giants did it, I'd probably talk myself into it. And because they didn't, I'm very well in the boat of they did the right thing, staying put. But if the Bears are good next year, the Giants messed up. If the Bears stink next year and that pick turns into a top 10 pick, I don't care how good Devonta Smith is. Tony in a top 10 pick is more valuable than Devonta Smith.
So moving on to the New York Football Jets. Listen, anyone who's sitting there grading the Jets or saying how they did, like, you have no idea. You have no idea. I'll tell you in 3 years or 2 years whether this draft was a success or a complete and utter failure, and it all rests on the shoulders and the right arm of Zach Wilson. Listen, obviously, in theory, getting Barrett Tucker, one of the arguably the best guard in the draft, the pair alongside Mekhi Becton gives you an elite left side of the offensive line. Then you get Elijah Moore, who led the FBS in receiving yards per game last year.
He's really, really good.
143 receiving. Really playing in an offense that was just spread it out and just chuck it around, score as many points as possible. So this wasn't a case of just a conservative offense where this dude just exploded. This was the case of an offense that just chucked it around to everybody and was very much a high tempo, sort of like a Big 12 type offense in the SEC is how I'd sort of describe it. They got 2 Michael Carters, 1 a running back, 1 a safety. Probably the first time in draft history a team drafted 2 players with the same name. And then they got I forget what else they did. But either way, the Jets obviously went offensive heavy, trying to surround Zach Wilson with as many offensive pieces as possible. And like I said, I will tell you in 3 years whether this draft was a success or a complete and utter failure. And based on the fact that the Jets are probably going to start Zach Wilson week 1, which is what they love doing, more than any other franchise, starting rookie quarterbacks week 1, it is one of the dumbest things I see NFL teams do. You see the Giants, they rested Eli Manning for like the first half of his rookie season. Patrick Mahomes sat out his rookie year. Tom Brady sat out his rookie year. Aaron Rodgers sat for 3 years. I mean, that's the recipe you got to follow. These guys that turn into elite quarterbacks sit out at the very beginning. It's rare. You get, obviously a Peyton Manning, Trevor Lawrence. Those guys are exceptions. Andrew Luck. Those guys are so talented, so exponentially above everybody else that you can't not start them. But either way, in the grand scheme of things, especially for an organization like the Jets, you would really, really benefit from sitting your rookie quarterback, let them watch and learn for at least like a month, and then put them in there and see what they got. But this whole week 1 nonsense with rookie quarterbacks, just doomed to fail every single time.
I don't know if I totally agree with that, Frank. I think
why not? Give me some exceptions. Go.
Russell Wilson started from week 1.
Okay, there's one. Okay, go. Who else?
Do you want to go through them all? I mean, like, you look at some guys who have sat and then came in and still stunk, and you look at guys who start and have come in and played pretty well. I mean, Baker Mayfield came in, and that doesn't mean he's great. But Justin Herbert came in after 1 game and looked phenomenal. I mean, Joe Burrow looked good last year when he started. I mean, I think it depends on the situation and more of the organization and what's around them. We don't know. Like Burrow starting last year is going to be similar to Wilson, where he could get banged up pretty good on a not so good team, and we'll see how he responds in year 2. And I think that's kind of what we're going to see in Wilson. How does he respond to some adversity here? My biggest takeaway from the Jets draft, Frank, was 2 things. 1, I would have taken more at 20 for the Giants and been happy with it. So to get him at 34, I think it's a great pick for you guys. And 2, the picture of Zach Wilson getting ready for the draft, where he looked like he was getting ready for his 7th grade winter formal. I just don't know how I would trust that guy to be the quarterback of my team. And that is
based on how he looks in a picture. Based on how he looks in a picture.
That's what I'm saying. It is not fair to Zach Wilson, but how is that guy going to step into a veteran locker room and like lead a team when he looks like he could be on the Sweet Life of Zach and Cody? Like, I don't know, man. That is almost too much of a baby face. And it's not fair to him to judge on a picture that makes no sense. But like, that dude looks like he's 12 years old. And I look like I'm 12 years old. So I understand Zach's pain. But my goodness, did he look like he was a baby face.
Well, here's what I can tell you. I'm expecting it to fail. I'm expecting him to be completely railroaded. I expect him to have a rookie season akin to like Troy Aikman or Peyton Manning, where he just throws like 30 interceptions. The Jets go like 4 I so used to get the 17 game thing. It's really going to take a lot of getting used to. 4-13.
It doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right.
Yeah, none of the records. It's 8-8, 10-6, 9-7, 8-8. All those records are gone now. You have to when you say records for a team, it's a whole different ballgame. It's one of the hardest things that's going to happen. I'm curious to see during the course of the season when you pick up win total or how you predict a record. How many analysts screw up and do it to a 16 instead of 17? I think it's going to be very common. So we'll see how.
I agree. No, it doesn't sound right. 12-5 doesn't sound right. 11-6 doesn't sound right. 15-2 doesn't sound right. It just doesn't, and it probably never will. And we're just have to suck it up and get used to it. But you're right. It doesn't sound right. The one thing I would say about the Jets, though, Frank, I like Saleh. I think they did a really good job surrounding Wilson with young talent to help him reach whatever potential he could reach in year one. And he's coming into a franchise that needs something to believe in. And by the sole fact that he's the second pick in the draft, the sole fact that he has this rocket arm, and the sole fact that he's not anything like what they've had the last 3 or 4 years gives hope. It's hopefulness. And the Jets need somebody to believe in. It doesn't sound like you believe in him. I have a hard time believing in someone that looks like they're 12 years old as a quarterback going against guys like Aaron Donald. But hey, it's better than what you had, and at least gives you something promising to start and build around.
Well, I listen. I kind of like the weapons that are in the offense now, with Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore, Michael Carter. Like they got some nice pieces in the receiving core that they can get the ball to, guys who do really, really well in space. And theoretically, like they're starting to there's a foundation in place. And I like that they went all offense, because the Jets aren't going to compete for a playoff spot this year. That's just not happening. No. So basically what you want to do this year is just build the foundation and get building blocks in place that you can build around, and then get set for the next draft and more free agency and go from there. But I think the Jets can just stay positive, show some signs of improvement. That's all you really want to see this year, is just show some competitiveness and trying hard. All right. Elsewhere in the draft, the biggest mystery was what the 49ers would do at the draft. Listen. And what they ended up doing was not Mac Jones. It was never Mac Jones. Anyone who thought in their right mind that it was ever going to be Mac Jones, I told you that it was never going to be him, and it wasn't. They went with Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. Who knows how good he'll be, but not shocked in the least that it wasn't. I honestly thought it was a toss-up between Fields and Trey Lance, but that's why I didn't bet on it. I didn't have the guts to fully commit to who it was going to be. The betting market was even crazier, because on the Wednesday night, Mac Jones was minus 350 to go second. And by the time the draft came around, he was like plus 300, and Trey Lance was like minus 200. It swung exponentially. I don't know, like, if someone leaked the information or how that sort of happened, but it was pretty wild to see that play out either way. Trey Lance is going to be a 49er. Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows what's going to happen with him, but it was never Mac Jones. And I'm not surprised at all that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch didn't pick him, because I never believed it for a second.
I'll say this. I actually do believe that they traded up to 3 with the intention of drafting Mac Jones, and then
they didn't. No, they didn't. No. Stop. No, you don't.
Listen.
No. Hang on.
They traded up to draft Mac Jones and then got around Trey Lance and Justin Fields, and so, we can't take Mac Jones at 3 when the other guys have that much more upside and potential to be more versatile weapons in this offense. Kyle Shanahan is an elite, maybe the best ever run game coordinator. Add in the quarterback legs to that equation, and it could be deadly. And Mac Jones didn't add that part of the equation to the 49ers offense. Trey Lance does. Justin Fields could have. That's why I think their mind ended up flipping at some point throughout the process, whenever it was. And it may have been after Pro Day. It may have been after Trey Lance's second Pro. Like, I don't know when the flip of the switch changed, but at some point it absolutely changed. I do think they traded up to 3 with the intention of Mac Jones, and then their minds legitimately changed throughout the process.
No, you don't give up that much capital to think, oh, we're getting this guy. Never mind. Oh crap, we have to change our minds and take somebody else. That is not how this works. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are 2 of the most methodical NFL evaluators and draft guys in the entire league. They are not flip-flopping who they think. It was Trey Lance from the start. And if you honestly believe they ever really seriously considered Mac Jones, get your head out of your butt. Are you kidding me? Mac Jones is one of the
Can I give you the perfect analogy, Frank?
No, I don't want to hear it.
Me and you go to Sam LaGrasse's. In your brain, you're getting the Chipotle pastrami. And then we get to the menu and you see a special on the board, and the special is someone you just can't pass up. And I've seen you do it. You've gotten the chicken cordon bleu sandwich off the special menu because you didn't know they were going to have it that day, and you went in with the game plan. You saw what the other options were, and you got the chicken cordon bleu. That is exactly what happened with the 49ers trading up for Mac Jones, who in this case is the Chipotle pastrami sandwich at Sam LaGrassa's, one of the best sandwiches in the world. They saw the potential in the chicken cordon bleu special, a.k.a. Trey Lance, and they changed their mind at the counter, Frank. That is what happened, and I came up with that off my noggin right now. Give me the Nobel Prize. We should end the podcast because that's the best thing I'm going to say all day, and you know it's true.
But listen, it's a fair analogy.
What's your rebuttal? There's no rebuttal here.
But the rebuttal is this. The 49ers had months and months and months to evaluate the quarterbacks. They didn't go to the draft and were like, wait, this guy's available? We had no idea. We need to change our entire philosophy. That is ridiculous. They had like 6-7 months, a whole year to evaluate the quarterback class, and they knew that who they wanted. It was Trey Lance. Once they made the trade, they decided they wanted Trey Lance. They made the conclusion that he would not be available at 12 or whatever the original pick was. I believe it was 12. And 12. They said we need to adjust here. If we want Trey Lance, we need to get to 3 because we know the Jets are taking Zach Wilson. We know the Jaguars are taking Trevor Lawrence. And if we want our guy, we need to get to 3. And that guy was Trey Lance. And since the day it may have been Mac Jones at some point during the offseason. It may have been. But when they realized that the conclusion was Trey Lance, that's when they pounced to make the move. And there's nothing Sam LaGrassa's, you, or anyone in the world could say that would let me think otherwise. It's just not. It's impossible. But
was that my best analogy of our podcast so far? Of like the history of us podcasting. I feel like that is an A+. I'm gonna, when you tweet this out, Frank, and you put this on a quote card, that is the part that I'm going to tease. That if you want to hear how Frankel, how I compare, whatever, you know what I'm saying. Moving on to the Nets, but that's a damn good analogy, and I'm gonna take that to the bank with me.
So the Patriots, after Mac Jones fell exponentially in the draft, all the way to 15 to the Patriots. Patriots fans seem to be over the moon about this pick. Listen.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, listen, here's what Mac Jones is. Mac Jones played in the single most talented offense probably in the history of college football. Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Najee Harris, John Mechie III, an elite offensive line. Just the most elite, talented offense that you'll ever see in college football. He was throwing at guys that had 20 yards of separation. And listen, we had draft guys on. Mac Jones was easily the least talented, least athletic quarterback of the 5. And listen, he's really, really smart, and maybe he'll be able to develop a manageable NFL career. But I can't see this guy going in there and leading a team to, multiple playoff appearances and being a stalwart of a franchise, no matter who his coach is or what situation he's in. I just have a really, really hard time believing that Mac Jones is going to be a highly successful NFL quarterback. He just doesn't have the skill set in my mind to get to that point.
I think he processes information unbelievably quick.
All right, stop it.
Hang on.
No. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the single smartest quarterback in the history of the league. You know how many playoff games he's played in?
You could be
0.
You could be smart. It doesn't mean you process information fast. There is a difference.
So you're saying, well, okay, go ahead, continue.
Well, it's like saying back to Sam LaGrassa's, Frank. I've seen you scarf down a Chipotle pastrami in 3 minutes before I finish half of my first one. Doesn't mean you're gonna beat Kobayashi in a hot dog eating contest. Like, yeah, you could eat fast, and it doesn't mean that you do everything in that sense. I'm killing it today. Everything in that realm. Like Mac Jones, say what you want. He processes information fast. Is he an elite athlete? Absolutely not. But is he athletic enough in the pocket to take a step up and create a better window to throw in? Yes. The other thing, I heard a great point, and this is not mine. Baldy, the Brian Baldinger, right, whatever his name is, Baldy NFL on Twitter, said a scout told him this. He goes, yeah, was he throwing to the best college receivers in football the last 2 years? Absolutely. Were they ever at a hindrance because of the way he played? No. So, yeah, did they make him better? Yes. Did he also make them equally as good? Yeah, they were never stopping on deep balls because he underthrew. They were never having to make spectacular catches because it was an inaccurate throw and they had to bail him out. Like, it was a cohesive relationship that he benefited from them being just unbelievable. And at the same time, their jobs were easy because Mac Jones was so damn accurate with it.
We'll say I have my doubts. Obviously, and
I
anyone
hope
that
he
knows,
sucks because he went to the Patriots. I hope he sucks for the record.
yeah.
I don't want the Patriots to be good. So
So who starts with the Patriots week 1? Cam Newton or Mac Jones?
Cam Newton for 3 weeks. Mac Jones takes over week 4.
What if Cam is 3-0?
Well, then he keeps going. But
Okay.
I still think Cam Newton can't throw the ball. So I think they'll let him just learn the playbook until he feels ready. And as soon as he feels ready, Mac Jones gives them a better chance to win, in my opinion.
All right, let's move on to the National Basketball Association here. Let's start with the Nets. Lost back-to-back games now, half game back of the Sixers for first place. I know you didn't watch the game yesterday on Sunday against the Bucks, but man, listen, Kevin Durant was, what a freaking performance by Kevin. 42 points, 7 of 13 from 3, just completely unstoppable. The Nets lost that game because they decided that they didn't want to play any defense from Giannis if he was not in the paint. They literally left him 20 feet of space to shoot jump shots. And they let him dribble, get his form right, take 3 deep breaths. It's like he had an island at himself out there to get the perfect form and get his shot down. And he ended up going 4 of 8 from 3. I was screaming at the TV, get up on him. And they just never did it. And then they had this other dude, Forbes, who I've never even heard of. Apparently he had a 30-point game one time. But he had 11 points on 4
Bryn
of 4.
Forbes, out of Michigan State.
Yeah, he had 11 points on 4 of 4 from the field. And he was honestly the X factor in the game for me. He came in and hit 3 big threes in a row, literally back to back. And then he had another shot in. And Kyrie Irving had 20 points on 7 of 25 from the field. He just didn't have it. I know he's going. Listen, I'm not. I know he's very religious going through Ramadan, and listen. You played sports. If you're going to not eat or drink for a 4 o'clock Eastern time game, from the time you wake up in the morning, no food, no water, no nothing. Listen, I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't speak to this, but to think that strategy can lead to elite performance, it's just literally impossible. It is impossible. And Kyrie looked tired. He looked like he didn't have his legs underneath him, and he really had a tough time getting going. I know he obviously 20 points is still 20 points, but he was really inefficient. I thought that he needed to really step up in that game, and that's we're going to win.
It is not conducive to playing good in any sport. It is a toll. And I've read a story from Enes Kanter, who's done this every year of his NBA career, on how difficult it is. I go for a half-mile jog and I'm dying for water. I can't imagine playing in an NBA game, coming out drenched, your body's sweating, you're losing fluids and not being able to drink at certain times. Water, Gatorade, anything. You can't get those fluids back. And credit to those guys for sticking to what they believe in and, doing what they have to fulfill their religious requirements. But it's not conducive. And I don't know how any of them do it. To score 20 points without any food in your stomach and without fluids, and it's insane. Even if he takes 25 shots, especially against Drew Holiday, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in the last 20 years in the NBA. It's stupid. And I don't know when Ramadan ends. I hope it ends before the playoffs.
May 12th.
Okay, so he'll be able to have lunch again by the playoffs, which is a blessing for the Nets. This is a game they needed James Harden in. They still almost won without him. But to Durant, I saw his splits since coming back are 61, 49, 94.
It's absurd.
Which for a full season would be the greatest shooting season by far ever. And he's just not human. He's literally not human. So Kevin Durant's a net. I love it.
I left that game thinking that the Nets are so much better than the Bucks because Giannis had to play. That was the greatest game Giannis could ever play. You will not see a better version of Giannis than that. He was hitting everything, just not missing from 3, the mid-range, attacking the paint. The Nets had no answer for Giannis, and I just can't see him replicating that game. Because if the Bucks are going to win and get to where they need to go, they need 40 to 50 points from Giannis every single game. If they're going to contend with the Nets and the Sixers, that's what they need from him. And I just think that's a little unrealistic to expect that from him every single time out. And the Nets, I know we're creeping up on it here. We're just under 3 weeks away from the playoffs, and man, we need James Harden back here because he is he really, really is the straw that stirs the drink in this offense. By the way, you know the Nets are 7-7 in games that Durant and Kyrie play together. 7-7. 7-7. Isn't that absurd?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some extraneous games in that stretch, like last night or yesterday afternoon with the Bucks. I don't know exactly what the other ones are, but Harden's the straw that stirs the drink.
For sure.
He makes this Nets team as electric and dynamic as it is. And I think more than anything, it's his playmaking, not his scoring. It's his playmaking and ability to keep everyone else on the court involved that Kyrie can do for little stretches, but not for a prolonged period to the level that James Harden does.
So moving on to the Lakers here, they've lost 4 straight games, 2 straight with LeBron and AD back in the lineup. Very, very bizarre. LeBron made the comment that he's never going to be 100% again. And then after they lost to whoever they lost to, Raptors on Sunday night, he said that he basically said whoever came up with the play-in tournament should get fired. And just 1 year ago, he was saying that he wanted to play in tournament. So LeBron being very, very hypocritical right now. Mike, here's how I feel. If the Nets can get Harden back, and if the Lakers just cannot get it together, we're winning the championship. The Nets are winning the championship. That's how I feel. Because the Lakers having to I mean, if LeBron's not going to be himself the rest of the season, the Lakers have no chance. If LeBron's not going to be LeBron, it's over for them. It's over. Straight up, it's over.
And Anthony Davis has not looked good since coming back. So you have your 2 best players, your only 2 legitimate stars on that team, because outside of them, that roster is pretty barren. Not playing to the level that we've grown accustomed to seeing those 2 elite stars play at. That Lakers team is a fringe playoff team. A fringe playoff team. Those 2 at full capacity, yeah, that's championship caliber basketball because those are 2 of the best 5 or 6 guys in the entire league, but neither has looked like themselves since returning from injury. And with LeBron, this is his first major injury really ever. I think he missed, his first year with the Lakers, missed significant time, but it wasn't an ankle injury. And ankles are so finicky where he left the game in the fourth quarter last night and didn't come back. Now, you could say maybe it was just precautionary, maybe he retweaked it, but an ankle without months off never fully heals. It's just a pain tolerance thing and how much are you willing to risk your future to get back. With LeBron seeing the state of the Lakers, them falling into the playoff game scenario or the play-in game scenario, which is why he's now saying it's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea when you're not involved. As soon as you get involved, the last thing you want to do is play 1 or 2 possible extra games before the playoffs. But I actually think for the Lakers, they may need it. I mean, they may need as many reps with some of these guys together just to get some semblance of a flow back in order to make a playoff run. I don't think the Lakers are scared of anybody if they're healthy. The issue is we have absolutely zero inclination to believe that either of their top 2 players will be 100% healthy come playoff time. So I would avoid it like the plague, but I understand LeBron's hypocritical swing now that he's could possibly be involved in the play-in games.
The Lakers do not the play-in game helping the Lakers, so that's ridiculous. That is absurd. But moving on, the New York Yankees. All right, actually no, real quick. Go to your head right now. Who wins the West?
Who wins the West? The Clippers.
Never made a conference finals in franchise history, so you're saying this is their year?
This is their year.
I have no idea. I saw the Nets beat the Suns. I was very unimpressed. It's so hard to say right now. The Clippers are like the most sexy team, I would say. But man, I have to predict who this might be like a Cinderella story in the Western Conference this year. I have no idea. Literally no idea.
And it could work out great for the Nets, though, that we could see a team like the Suns or the Jazz make it all the way to the NBA championship. Hopefully, let me say 2 things. Whoever would have thought the East would have a harder path to the championship than the West. And right now, I think the East is absolutely a harder path to the championship than the West is. And then secondly, if the Nets can get to the finals and play a team like Phoenix, let's just start throwing the parade after game 1, baby. Hey. There's no need. I mean, that's may not be a sweep, but 5 games top. I mean, Phoenix can't, like you said, Phoenix played its best possible 23 minutes of basketball to start that game. or 20 minutes of basketball to start that game. Then Kevin Durant came in, and as soon as Durant came in, the game was over. And they never looked like they were a comparable team. They don't have the scoring threats. Outside of Booker, I mean, Chris Paul is going to get you 20, but it's not a explosive 20. Ayton's going to get his points in the paint. The Nets really can't stop him. Outside of that, they have no one to stop Durant. Who's guarding Harden? You're going to put Chris Paul on Kyrie? Okay, that's a wash. How are you going to stop him? You're not.
I just need to see like just 1 or 2 games before the playoffs start with Kyrie, Harden, and Durant together. Just give me 1 or 2 games with those 3 guys together, just so I can see it before the playoffs start, at least once, and then I'll feel good. I just need some positive mojo for the Nets here as we get into the playoffs. That's all I want. Moving on to the New York Yankees, Mike. They're back at 500. It's unbelievable. They swept the Tigers, did what they had to do. So Carl stands on a 9-game hitting streak. It's a really incredible turn of events here for the Yankees over the past week and a half or so. The big concern here is Gary Sanchez, and I think that his time. I think the Yankees are just going to. I'd be shocked if he was still a Yankee by the trade deadline. I just think that the ship has sailed in Gary Sanchez. I will always maintain he was the most talented catcher I ever saw, just in terms of physical hitting ability, arm behind the plate. But I don't know what happened. It just hasn't worked out, and it's so unfortunate because that dude had Hall of Fame ability. And let's just face it, Kyle Higashioka calls an exponentially better game behind the plate. He's getting clutch hits. He's going to put together a professional bat every single time at the very least, and it's just not what Gary Sanchez can do right now. I hope it changes, but it's just not looking good at all for Gary Sanchez here, and it's really unfortunate, like I said.
The worst thing that ever happened to Gary Sanchez was hitting 20 home runs in 50 games in his rookie season. It put the most unrealistic of expectations on him moving forward. And we've seen it before. Chris Shelton comes to mind.
No. Hang on. No. Gary Sanchez was an elite prospect. Like a dude that everyone has.
I agree. But I'm saying you see guys come into the pros and pitchers don't know their strengths and weaknesses yet. And for a 50-game, 60-game stretch, even half a season at times, a rookie comes in and just absolutely mashes the baseball. And Gary Sanchez is still unbelievably talented. I don't think anyone's denying his talent. Pitchers just found out really quick what he can and what he can't hit. Great fastball hitter. Great low ball hitter. And they're throwing him off-speed stuff and they're throwing high fastballs and he hasn't adjusted yet. That's on Sanchez and the Yankees for not making the proper adjustments when the entire league has adjusted to what you do well and what you don't do well. Guys like Shelton came up. I think he had 9 home runs in the first 15 games of the season. Teams realized, all right, just don't throw him a fastball. He can't hit anything off speed. All right, start them all breaking balls. Never adjusted. Was out of the league 2 years later. Sanchez won't be out of the league. He's too good to ever be out of the league, but he hasn't adjusted. And I think the expectations that came with that unbelievably historic start maybe got to his head a little bit and then maybe marred our vision of what he really is, because he was never going to be a guy that hits 2 home runs every 5 games. He was never going to be a 70 home run guy. It's not possible.
But he to be fair, he did have 40 homers in 2019. So he just hasn't. He's had moments, and his 2019 season was incredible, but he just hasn't been able to put it all together since then. And I hope he still could. It's not over yet, but it's pretty close to being over. And I just can't believe. I can't believe it that Gary Sanchez is it's just not gonna. I can't believe it.
When he comes to the plate, do you have any faith that he'll do anything but strike out?
If he gets ahead in the count 2-0 or 3-1, then I get excited. If he falls behind 0-2, I know it's over.
That says everything you need to say.
So last thing, Astros come to town on Tuesday.
Are you going?
No, I have work, so I'm not gonna be able to go. And then it's supposed to be really crappy weather on Wednesday. But I just hope that the Bronx crowd just gives that team hell. Just rain down on them, make them feel as miserable as possible. They took 2 championships from us, and I will never forgive them.
I will tell you, all the people I know in Texas who are Astros fans are half excited and half absolutely dreading this coming series. They're scared that someone's going to get hurt. They're convinced a fight's going to break out. I'm not sure who is the fighter on the Yankees, but I can't wait to see who it is. And I think it's literally must-see appointment television for the next 3 days.
The issue with the Yankees is that it's really unfortunate if you because you know that the umpires are not gonna. They're gonna have no. There's gonna be no leeway here. Like anything inside of the game, thrown out of the game. But I would love for if Domingo Germán threw like a 98-mile-an-hour fastball at Altuve just to start the game. Let's go. Here we go. Because the benches will clear.
Hit him right on the chest where the microphone was.
Yeah, that'd be great. But I don't think the Yankees will have the guts to do it. We'll see how it plays out. But Yankees Astros this week. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. That'll do it for this edition of the Lucas podcast. We'll see everyone either later this week or early next week for the full recap of the latest from the world of sports. Follow him on Twitter at Lucas, me at Lucas Frankel. See you next week.